Most solo filmmakers fail. And I don't mean they give up before actually starting. I mean, they actually shoot loads of footage, fill up their hard drives, and then never finish the film. So the real question is, why does this happen? And how do you stop this from happening if you're planning on making a film by yourself? In this video, I'm going to share 7 lessons I learnt the hard way, including the one mistake that nearly made me quit filmmaking altogether. I'm Sebastian. I've been making documentaries for over 20 years, and I've made pretty much every mistake in the book when it comes to filming on your own. In this video, I'll walk you through 7 lessons that will save you months of wasted effort and help you actually finish your documentary. Most first-time solo filmmakers obsess over gear, film endlessly without focus, and then give up in the edit. But if you know what to prioritize, you can actually make and finish a compelling documentary that you're really proud of. Lesson 1. My films only work when I put story first. So when I was about 16, I made this short film that I basically poured my whole life into.
So basically what I'm doing at the moment is just searching for locations and stuff and making sure everything's okay and just seeing where I can put the extension cords out so we can have some floodlights. Otherwise it would just be black and you can't see a thing.
I was obsessed. Every spare hour went into it. Loads of filming, late nights, editing, doing sound design, roping in friends to help. I even found a composer to create an original score for the film. I worked on it for probably a year. But the problem was, I'd only spent about a week on developing the story, as I just wanted to get filming as soon as possible. I'd made the film for a festival, and I was really excited about it.
The film's about to start, and I'm really nervous, and
But on the night of the festival, my film came on, and I could feel it. People shifting in their seats, fidgeting, and then the awards were handed out, which there were actually quite a lot of, but mine didn't get a single mention. And I had high hopes for that film, so it was a real blow to my confidence. I'd put everything into bringing that film to life. And in that moment, I realized I'd made a boring film. So that night, lying in bed, I felt like a complete failure. And it planted a thought in my head that really shook me. I'll come back to that later in this video, but the thing I wish I knew back then is that before you even pick up a camera, you've got to make sure you've got a good story. And here's the questions I ask to find out if I do have a good story. What does my character want? What's getting in their way of that want? And what's at stake if nothing changes? If you can't answer those, you're not ready to start filming. And the funny thing is, the very next year, I pulled up my socks and jumped into the filmmaking arena again. Same festival, but this time I put a lot more effort into crafting the story. I stripped everything back, focused on one main character, had a proper story arc, and as a result, the film ended up winning Best Film and Best Director. It was the same amount of effort to make the film, but the story was stronger. Everything just clicked. It was a really amazing feeling. I suddenly felt like I'd found the magic formula for making compelling films. And now I've taken that a lot further over the years. Like on a recent client documentary, we had 20 hours of footage, 2 cameras running the whole time, which meant about 40 hours of raw footage that had to be cut down into 20 minutes. That could have been an absolute nightmare, but because I'd mapped out a 3-act structure beforehand and tailored my interview questions around it, the whole process flowed. We actually finished it within the deadline, and it came out really well. So yeah, story first. It sounds simple, but it is the difference between finishing a film you're proud of that keeps people leaning in versus one that people keep checking their watch and falling asleep in. And the thing is, story comes before gear, before visuals, before everything else. But the real magic happens when you build trust with the person that you're filming. And that leads me onto lesson number 2. Capturing authentic moments starts with trust, not the camera. When I first started making documentaries, I thought I had to film everything. Every angle, every little moment. But all that kind of did was exhaust me, make the edit a nightmare, And honestly, it often made the person I was filming, I guess, like just shut down, because I was sticking a camera in their face before I'd even said hello properly. And when you're filming solo, you don't have a producer there to do the introductions. It's just you. So what I realized through a lot of trial and error is that good solo filmmaking isn't about capturing loads of footage and just trying to make that look cinematic. It's actually more about when you take the camera out and in what order you do things. To help with this, I came up with a method I use on all my solo projects. I call it CAR, C-A-R, Connect, Action, Reflection. So first is connect. When you're solo, this is crucial. Before the camera even comes out, I take time to get to know the subject that I'm filming. Ideally, I'll meet them before the shoot, but even if it's just on the day, I'll sit down, have a cup of tea with them, have a chat, share a little bit about myself. Because if they only see you as the filmmaker with a camera, they're going to stay guarded. But if they see you as a person first, they'll relax. And that makes your job a lot easier later. Then comes action. So once I've built trust and rapport, I'll ask them if they're happy for me to start filming. And that's when I'll get the camera out. I usually start with some simple B-roll, so stuff I can capture quickly without spending a long time setting up equipment. Then I'll move into interviews, if it's an interview-led film. This means usually like setting up lights and a mic, and that can take a bit of time. But I often find that's actually quite a good thing because it gives your subject like a natural break before I sit down to interview them. And by that point, they're already comfortable in your presence. So when you finally roll into the interview, they're much more relaxed and open to sharing their story. And finally is reflection. So after the interview, I'll film more B-roll. But this time, it connects directly to what they've just shared. An example could be like a family photo that they mentioned, or their hands at work, cooking, for example, or just a quiet moment where they're sitting and taking in the view. When you're making films alone, this is where you can be really nimble, moving quickly, picking up shots without waiting for a crew. And because it ties back to their words, like what they said in the interview, it always hits harder in the edit. I remember the first time I used the CAR method and it completely changed the shoot. Instead of running around like a headless chicken trying to capture everything, I left with exactly what I needed. And the person I was filming actually really enjoyed the process too. It wasn't this kind of painful thing that I had to keep encouraging them to say, oh, I need to get this angle and this angle. They were happy and enjoyed the process. I now use CAR on pretty much every project that I film solo, as it keeps things focused, keeps the subject comfortable, and most importantly, it builds trust that makes real storytelling possible. Lesson 3. Less camera gear often leads to better filmmaking. So when you're filming solo, gear can be the thing that absolutely breaks you. And I learned this the hard way.
This is the not so fun bit.
I've lugged bags of kit up mountains in New Zealand, tents, drones, tripods, everything. And by the time I got to the top, I was absolutely wrecked. Even before I started pressing record. And same thing when I was living in London, I used to haul lights across the city on the tube. And then when I'd actually get to the location, I'd just be spending all my time setting up lights, lugging tripods from one place to the other, without actually capturing some really magical moments. And that's when it sort of hit me. When you're on your own, every extra bag you bring is energy that you're gonna lose. And that energy is so much better spent actually connecting with the person that you're filming. And I remember the first time I kind of stripped it back. It was such a relief. I just took on one camera, one lens, and one mic. And that was it. And suddenly I wasn't stressed about all this gear. One of the best examples of this is from a documentary that I've been working on over the last few years. It's called Creative Courage. So it follows the story of this amazing woman, really inspiring. She's called Lou, who sadly is no longer with us. And in the beginning, when we were filming, it was me and my buddy Duncan. He was on the camera, I was directing, and he was filming, and would turn up with loads of kit. Lou was relaxed with us because she knew us and we'd spent time building that rapport, but the gear felt a little bit overwhelming. And she even asked us to strip it back, So the next time I went back to film with her, it was just me on my own with a simple setup. And the difference was huge. She opened up a lot more, and the moments we captured felt a lot more real rather than us trying to set up lights and set up a moment. It was just raw, authentic verite, which is amazing. But that experience also showed me like it's not one size fits all. There are times when having Duncan there is like really essential. For example, if I'm filming a high-end sit-down interview, or I need the scene to look really cinematic and raise the production value with lighting, then having him there means I can focus fully on the interview and connecting with the subject while he takes care of the technical side. But when I'm chasing the story and I'm looking for those authentic, heartfelt moments, often it's best when it's just me and a camera. And on most documentaries, I'd say it ends up being a mix of both. Sometimes you need a polish, and sometimes you need that intimacy. So it just depends on the project, the subject, and the kind of story that you're trying to tell, and the kind of scene that you're trying to tell, because some scenes will need to look cinematic and some will need to be intimate. Lesson 4. Limitations can strengthen your storytelling. You don't need loads of money to make a powerful documentary by yourself. In fact, sometimes the lack of money and resources makes the film better, as you're forced to think creatively about how to tell the story. Like when I made One Breath, I literally put all my savings into flying out there to go and film with the main characters. It was meant to be this big film that I've been dreaming about for ages. And then after about a day or two of shooting, the whole thing fell apart. The main characters had some personal stuff come up, and we had to stop filming. And I was stuck. I thought the project was dead, like I'd blown all this money, and I had nothing to show for it. But then they handed me this hard drive of archive footage. At the time I was gutted because I knew I couldn't afford to fly back to where they were based and keep filming. But actually that limitation, it forced me to work with what I had. So I spent months combing through the archive footage that they'd given me, stitching it together with the little bits that I'd actually shot. And actually in the end, it made the film so much stronger. It pushed me to be more creative in the edit and tell the story in a different way. Without that constraint, the film would have been completely different and probably not as good. So the lesson for me was that you don't need to throw money at everything. If I had, say, £1,000 today to make a documentary on my own, I wouldn't go out and buy new gear. I'd rent a simple camera and audio kit, just for the days that I needed it, and I'd put some money aside for music licensing. So where I'm at now is I think about budget very differently. I spend on the things that free up my time and energy, rather than on the stuff that looks shiny and new. Like if I know sound design or say color grading will lift the film way beyond what I can do on my own, for me that's worth investing in. But if it's just another gadget, I'll skip it. Well, I'll try to skip it. I do get tempted sometimes. I'm like, ooh, shiny new camera, I want this. But the story should always come first. And then you can look at what actually supports getting that story told. Lesson 5. Prepping the night before is essential. When you're filming solo, there's no one else to catch your mistakes. And I've made plenty of mistakes. Like I once hiked up this massive mountain with my drone to get this amazing shot at sunrise. And by the time I got there, to the top, I was absolutely knackered. And I realized that the SD card was still sitting at home, which is so frustrating. Another time was in the Altair Mountains when I was prepping the night before for this big sunrise shoot with the main character Ashulpan. So I pulled out my main lens, got the equipment all ready, and then I realized like the lens had jammed. And because I checked the kit the night before, like I actually had time to get a screwdriver out, fix it, and get it working again. But if I'd left it until the morning to check everything was working, I wouldn't have been able to capture some of my favorite sunrise shots from that shoot. So for me, the lesson was pretty simple. Prep everything the night before. Charge batteries, make sure cards are formatted, make sure your kit is packed, clothes laid out, food sorted, weather checked, everything. It might sound a bit obsessive, but actually it gives you a lot of freedom because once you're on location, you're not having to stress out about gear. You're just present with the people in front of you. The first time I really stuck to this, it changed the whole shoot. I wasn't wasting any time in the morning like looking for a battery that was missing or trying to fix a cable that had broken from the previous shoot. I could just walk in, set up, and focus on building trust with the person I was filming. And that makes a massive difference. And even if the shoot goes perfectly and you planned everything the night before, the place that actually most solo filmmakers really hit a brick wall is in the edit. Lesson 6.
When you feel overwhelmed, break it down into steps.
Editing a documentary on your own can feel pretty lonely. And it can feel a bit like climbing Mount Everest. You sit down with hours and hours of footage and no idea where to even start. I've been there plenty of times myself. In fact, One Breath sat on a hard drive for 2 years because I couldn't face it. The mistake I made back then was thinking I had to somehow finish the whole thing in one go. Like I'd open Premiere and expect myself to magically build a perfect film out of all the chaos and footage. And of course, that just led me to staring at the screen, feeling stuck, and eventually giving up for months at a time. The lesson I learned is that editing, especially when you're on your own, is all about breaking it down into steps. So like creating proxies, organizing transcripts, writing a paper edit, putting together an assembly edit, rough cut, fine cut, then sound design, color, and finally sharing it with an audience. It's about focusing on one step at a time. Instead of thinking, I've got to finish this film, I just told myself, I was like, okay, today's about organizing the footage. Or this week is about getting a rough cut. And the other thing that made a massive difference is I brought on an editor near the end. Because when you're making a film by yourself, you can often get too close to the story. You stop seeing it clearly. And having someone with fresh eyes to help bring the film to life, they spotted things that I'd missed. They had a perspective, and it gave me the motivation to actually finish the film. Suddenly, it wasn't this impossible mountain. It was just a series of manageable steps. And having someone at the end alongside me to help finish the film was an absolute game changer. But the truth is, the hardest part of solo filmmaking isn't story or gear or editing. It's something deeper. And it almost made me quit altogether. So at the start of this video, in lesson 1, I mentioned that after submitting my film into the festival and then realizing that I'd made a boring film, it planted a thought in my head. It was the first time I wondered if I should quit filmmaking, because I felt like I just wasted a year of my life. And I thought, I'm not cut out for this filmmaking thing. Maybe it would be better if I just gave up. And if I'm being really honest, that feeling has come back again and again, even now after 20 years of making films. Every single film that I've made, there's been a moment where I've wanted to quit. Always. It doesn't matter how excited I was at the beginning. Somewhere in the middle, it gets hard and I think, why am I even doing this? The mistake I made early on was thinking I had to power through it all by myself. That because I was a solo filmmaker, I had to be solo in every sense. And when the self-doubt creeps in, it's so tempting to just walk away from a project.
And this leads me to lesson 7, which is you don't have to do it alone.
And with creative courage, the film that I've been working on over the last couple of years, about the amazing Lou, it's actually sitting untouched on my hard drive right now.
So just to give you some context here, so I've been filming this documentary about Lou for a few years, and she let me into her life while going through cancer treatment. I spent time with her partner and family, and the trust she showed me meant a lot. Even when things were really tough, she still believed in the film that we were making together. Her resilience and zest for life was inspiring. And since she died, I haven't really talked about Lou and this project much publicly, so it still feels quite raw.
And to be honest, because of the loss I feel around Lou, and the fact that I'm struggling to face it, I've just given myself a break. But I know that I'll come back to it at some point. But what helps is having my buddy Duncan there in my corner. He'll send me links to funding opportunities and give me little nudges, reminders that this story matters, and that it deserves to be told, and that it deserves to be finished. And that makes me feel like I'm not alone. And you might be in the same situation. You shouldn't try to do it all alone. Find someone, a friend, a peer, a community, who'll remind you why you started and why you shouldn't quit and give up. For me, that support system is what's kept all my films alive. It's the reason they actually get finished instead of abandoned on a hard drive. So what most solo filmmakers struggle with isn't passion, it's focus. You don't need to film everything or buy loads of gear. You just need to know what to prioritize.
So to help with this, I've put together a short PDF with the 7 lessons I've learnt as a solo filmmaker. You can get this by clicking the link below. Just add your name and email and I'll send it over. It's something that you can come back to when you're feeling stuck or frustrated while making your documentary.
And if you've ever sat staring at hours of footage with no idea where to even start, that's exactly what my next video is about. I'll walk you through how I edit a documentary from start to finish, step by step. Click here to check it out. Thanks so much for watching. It means a lot having you here, and I'll see you in the next one.